You're saving stagnant no matter how hard you work? Make money work for you with MIDF Invest, an easier, safer way to grow your wealth by investing in stocks and ETFs from over 6,000 US companies. The bank is regulated by Securities Commission for your peace of mind, so you can keep your money safe while keeping it busy.
Hi, let me show you how easy it is to buy a stock from the MIDF Invest app. To start, download the MIDF app from the Play Store or the App Store. Registering your account with us will be very easy, and once your account is approved, you can click the trade button to begin your investment journey. Search for the stock that you like to buy, customize your stock buying options, tap on the Place Order button, and finally tap the Confirm button. And congratulations, you have purchased your first stock on the MIDF Invest app.
Want to earn from some of the world's biggest companies? Let your money work abroad. With MIDF Invest, you can invest in stocks and ETFs from over 6,000 US companies, including a wide range of Sharia-compliant stocks. Have questions? You can talk to our experienced happiness agents anytime. So, if your savings are still sleeping on the job, it's time to make them work a little harder.
Hi everyone, I am going to share my screen real quick. Okay. Okay. Go from the top. Okay. Hi everyone. I'd like to wish everyone a very warm welcome to this webinar. I think today is the final episode with regards to ethical investing. During the past couple of weeks, I think it's a good 1 month, we talked a little bit about ESG investing, right? And from the ESG investing, we talked a little bit about how what is ESG investing and why is it getting very, very popular. And I'm sure many of you, if you guys are interested within financial securities, and also you're interested with regards to financial news, ESG was one of the hottest things that was in a lot of social media channels on YouTube, so on and so forth. So we talked a little bit about ESG during the start of this journey, right? And eventually we moved on into Sharia investing, right? And basically Sharia investing basically follows the principles which are laid out in the Quran and also by the Prophet, right? And what it is it breaks things down into halal and also haram, right? So the basic rule of thumb is businesses which are involved in halal activities, I guess, kosher to invest in, right? So today we're going to wrap up everything, right? And basically, before we begin, allow me to just do a quick introduction about myself, right? And I also want to know about you guys, right? Type 1, if this is your first time in the webinar, and type 2, if this is more than the second or subsequent times you've been in the webinar, right? So please do type it in the comment section, right, while I introduce myself. So just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Adnan. I have been in the financial industry for close to 20 years, right? I've worked as an auditor, right, for Big Four. Subsequently, I worked in investments in the investment banking industry, where I was an analyst, and pretty much our job is to find really, really good stocks at very cheap prices, right? And during the past few episodes, I've been talking a little bit about how to find good stocks, right? So throughout this whole journey, right, I hope within the next half a year or maybe 1 year, right, after me sharing all this information, you too will be very empowered investors and take amazing decisions. And with taking amazing decisions, you guys will get good returns, right? And right now I'm actually teaching and also doing customer outreach, where I do financial literacy and also customer outreach, right? So basically, I guess over here, this is a little bit about our app, right? It's www.midfinvest.my. Please do visit the new web app. It is at the latest. This is the latest interface, and there are a couple of really awesome features, basically. So before we begin, right? Before we begin, let me again. I would like to just to maybe tell you guys how this webinar will be structured, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is why ethical investing, right? Why ethical investing, and also we're going to talk a little bit about the myth of ethical investing. Second thing we want to do is how do we start investing ethically, right? How do we even begin the overall journey? I mean, it's a really nice word, you know, ethical investing, but how do we start from zero if we don't know that much, right? So we're going to talk about it in this episode. Last two episodes was really what is ESG and what is Sharia. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to start investing ethically, basically. And final thing is the most important question, the million-dollar question is, do you guys make money investing ethically? Do we make money investing ethically, right? So I think these are the top 3 questions we're going to answer in today's webinar. So the first thing is the myth of ethical investing, right? So I think the first myth is sustainable investing is not really investing, right? And why a lot of people are saying this is that, you know, sometimes when we do good, right? And this has, I guess, a strong tie to maybe if we donate, right? That's doing good, right? So therefore, when we donate, you know, we don't expect that much in return, right? So in today's episode, I'm going to maybe burst the bubble and show you guys that ethical investing does make money, right? But we need to be very clever with regards to this. And I'll show you the strategy of trying to make money using the ethical investing filter, right? Second myth is sustainable investing is about investors' values, not performance. Basically, what this is basically saying is that, you know, we just, as we want to do good, we forgo our performance. Again, which is not true, right? And I'm going to show you with regards to the performance charts on certain assets which are ethical and also ESG compliant, right? And the final thing is ethical investing is only for millennials and not for the general population. Okay, this is far from the truth. In fact, I am a strong believer in ethical investing, right? And I'll show you one case study, right, as to why ethical investing, I think, is a very strong component that we should put towards our investment decisions, right? So let me give you guys a quick case study, right, on why ethical investing is very, very important, right? So type yes if you guys remember this, 2007 to 2008, right? And type, I guess, no if you guys first time hearing this particular story, right? So type 1 if you guys heard this story before, if you know about the global financial crisis where the banking sectors crashed during 2007 to 2008, or type 2 if you know, you guys are not too sure about what it is, right? But basically from the top down, what happened in 2007 and 2008, between these 2 years, are a couple of things which really changed the landscape of the financial industry, right? So what happened was that the backdrop in the American economy was that interest rates were very low. And when interest rates are low, what will happen is they want to stimulate the overall economy, right? So this happened in 2007 and 2008. When the interest rates were low to help stimulate the US economy, right? What will happen is that businesses are inclined to borrow money to start their business. It's very cheap for them to borrow, so therefore they're incentivized to borrow money. And also consumers, since for me to take a loan or for me to spend using my credit card, since the interest rates were low, I'm incentivized to spend money or to borrow and spend money, right? So what happened was that during this time, when interest rates were low, there is one asset class which did not pay so well, which is the bonds, right? Typically, the bonds would follow the interest rates. As interest rate goes up, the coupon for the bonds also will move up, right? But since the overall economy had a very low interest rate, right? So bonds did not pay that well. So at this point in time, right, a lot of investors, they want to actually have, I guess, a steady flow of income, but bonds did not allow them to actually enjoy good returns. What happened was that the financial institutions came up with this particular security or this particular asset class called the mortgage-backed security. And what mortgage-backed security basically is, right, in a nutshell, is that what a lot of these banks would do is they will lend money, right, to people, basically. And there were this particular group called the subprime lenders, right? The subprime lenders, right? Whereby these guys, whereby these guys cannot buy a house. They cannot afford, right? They are very poor pay masters, right? So they cannot quite borrow to actually buy a house. So what these banks were doing is that they lent money to subprime guys, basically, right? So that they can buy a house. So when that happened, basically a lot of money started flowing into the housing market, right? So what happened is that with the mortgage-backed security, right, since they are giving it to subprime guys, right, what will happen is that if you borrow to someone or if you lend money to someone which is relatively risky, the interest rates will go a little bit higher. So therefore, mortgage-backed securities pay better interest compared to bonds, right? And there was this thing called the credit default swaps also to ensure that this mortgage-backed security had insurance. If people cannot pay, then they have the credit default swaps, right? What happened was that, when the bubble burst, basically, right? When people just, they just didn't, the whole thing of it all is that since they gave it to subprime borrowers, right? They gave it to subprime borrowers. And a lot of these guys, right? They're not very good with, I guess, money, basically, right? So hence the name subprime. So when they could not pay for their houses, what happened was that houses, all of a sudden, they could not pay for the houses, and they had to maybe macam lelong all of these houses. Slowly, there were just too many houses in the market, and there were a lot of lelong properties. And what happened was the supply of property shot up, and the demands was not there since the bubble was bursting. So basically, what happened was there was a crash in the housing market, and there was a crash in the financial markets, and there was a global. There were an estimated loss of 22 trillion in the global stock markets, right? At that point in time, what basically happened is that a lot of people kind of lost trust with regards to the financial institutions. They were financial institutions like Lehman, Bearstearns, AIG, right? So basically, to summarize what I was saying, they had predatory lending. And what predatory lending means is that even though people cannot afford to buy these houses, some, I guess, unscrupulous banks still lend the money to them, right? And with the banks lending money to them, right, hoping for higher interest rates, and knowing that these guys maybe are not really good paymasters, so maybe that could be predatory lending. The next thing is financial innovations with a lot of innovative products like mortgage-backed securities and credit default swaps, right? A lot of this is driven by greed, right? So when the bubble popped, right, basically all of these securities, they weren't worth that much already because the underlying assets. The thing is, houses, the housing market dropped, people could not pay their loans, and then all of a sudden all of these securities just were worth much less. And the final thing is that they were inadequate regulations, right? So this was something that happened during the 2007 and 2008, right? And I guess the lessons over here is that there are moral hazards. Sometimes, when institutions, when they're a bit greedy, I guess, this could be the moral dilemma, right? Should they have given the loan in the first place, right? And the next thing is ethical considerations. And after this, right, there was a lot of people that wanted companies to start doing good, right? And hence there was the ESG movement, right? So right now, after the whole crash, right, a lot of investors right now are demanding people to start acting ethically and to start acting good, right? And that's one of the reasons why the ESG movement actually started picking up steam after that particular situation. The whole thing of it all is we want to trust the people that we're doing business, right? So therefore, right, this movement started picking up, right? And I think the main lesson that can be learned over here is that ethical filters in a nutshell is super important. Why? If we look at ESG, right, ESG actually tekankan or focuses or emphasizes on transparency. If a lot of these banking industries were more transparent, people could have made better decisions. But since they weren't very transparent, they put very complex formulas to confuse a lot of the investors, right? A lot of investors also were caught in the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, right? The second ethical filter is also the Islamic one, which is Sharia, right? And Sharia forbids investors to enter into businesses which are riba or which makes money from interest, basically. So if we use these two ethical filters, right, this particular thing will not even impact us whatsoever. And that's the amazing thing about ethical investing. But I think the most important point over here is that when we look at traditional investing, which is using financial filters, right, a lot of the ratios actually indicated that these banks were doing really good since they gave mortgage-backed securities, which gave better interest at a lower risk. Let me repeat that again, right? Mortgage-backed securities, on paper, they were better returning assets with lower risk. Therefore, if we only use one filter, which is the financial filters, right, we probably get caught, basically. But right now, that's one of the reasons why the past 2 weeks, I've been talking about ESG filters and also Sharia filters. I think these two filters are very, very important in today's, I guess, very uncertain and unstable environment, right? So I think the power of value investing, right? We can see it over here, right? 85% of millennials and Gen Z believe that investment decision should be aligned with their values, right? And the sustainable funds have been attracting more and more investors. And according to Morningstar, it attracted as much as 51.1 billion, right, net inflows during the 2020s, right? And if we look at the charts on the right-hand side, we can see that millennials make the biggest, I guess, share of those which are interested towards ethical investing. And rightfully so, I mean, after the whole subprime and everything, right? So we can see more people are demanding businesses to not only make profit, but also do good, right? And that's one of the reasons why ESG is very important. When we put our money investing in a company, that's pretty much a vote towards that company. And if we vote ESG companies, therefore we are voting for businesses to do good, right? This one, again, another one, in terms of, if you look at the favorability, right? In terms of investing, we can see that 77% of millennial prioritizes on ESG, right? So I think more and more we can see that there are younger investors, right, which are interested in the ethical space, right? And I guess that's one of the reasons why everyone is here today, is just to understand ethical investing, right? And another thing is that I mentioned this before, the big funds in Malaysia, right, which makes AUM about $1 trillion, is a couple of funds. They are signatories of the PRI, which basically states that they're going to be ethical investors, and these are institutional investors. So I think more and more, not only retail, but also the institutional space, they are asking for more ethical driven products. So I think over here, right, I'm going to just talk about what has been happening recently, right? So recently, there's this industry called the fast fashion industry, right? Which basically, some of the practices are not the most ethical, right? And of late, we can see that things like, the labels on your clothes, right? Those labels at the back. Some people actually put this on words, help me or something, right? And one of the reasons why is that till today, there are still things like sweatshops, and there are things that companies that still does pollution, right? So that's one of the reasons why I think it's very important. It's this, basically. I'm going to get down to how to invest as an ethical investor, right? How to invest as an ethical investor. Number one, we need to know our values, right? So if I want to invest in Sharia businesses, I have to ensure that the business that I'm investing in is involved in Sharia compliant activities, right? So activities like maybe restaurants that do not serve any alcohol, right? Or maybe hotels, right? Also make sure that they are halal investing. So make sure, number one, we need to know our values first, right? That's very important. Number two, know your financial goals, right? Most important for any financial assets, you need to know how much you want to gain from your assets, right? Do you want to get only 5%, right? If you want to get 5%, very simple. You just go into maybe fixed assets or maybe fixed deposit assets between 4 to 5%, right? But if you want to have something higher returns, you need to take more risk. It could be equities, right? So you need to not only know what you want, right? What values you have. The next thing you want to know is what or how much of returns that you want to get. That will probably base your investment decision. The third thing is to align your investments, right? So that means you know your values and also know your financial goals. And then this is where you take action, basically, right? So during the past 4 webinars, I've been talking over and over again with regards to equities and ETF. Right? I think these two are really good assets, right? And finally, also, right, let's not forget about the way we spend money. Every time when we spend money, it's a vote towards the business profitability. So if we want to actually support companies that do good, make sure that we spend our dollars or our ringgit in companies that also focuses on doing good, basically. So, okay, I think this is one of the more important charts, right? With the whole ESG movement, right? So E stands for environment, S stands for social, and G stands for governance, right? And right now, with the letter E, which is taking care of the environment, right? We can see that since more and more people are actually investing in ESG, this actually helped become a catalyst towards really amazing industries. And one of the amazing industries is renewable energy, right? With more money being invested in ESG, this became a catalyst for companies and businesses that focuses on doing good. And we can see companies like renewable and clean energy, right? This particular ETF, QCLN, within 5 years, managed to get about 150%. So agak-agak lah, about 30% per year in terms of returns. I think it's really, really awesome lah, right? And I think we talked a little bit about this also lah, right? Where we can see that the during my ESG episodes, right? We can see episodes 1 and episodes 2. During episode, I think 1 or 2, I talked a little bit about ETFs, which I really love. And one of the ETFs which I really like is renewable and also clean energy, right? And since that webinar until right now, this particular ETF actually made about 10%. I hope some of you guys invested in this ETF lah, basically. Another ETF is also the Sharia. This is what I introduced last week lah, right? And this is HLAL by Wahid, right? And this ETF is in their 4-year performance, they made about 70% lah. So the returns are in the teens, right? Even Sharia investing does make money, right? And if we were to look at it from 1 month lah, made about 6%. So it's pretty good in 1 month. 6%, that's pretty good, right? So I think the last thing I want to say is that ethical filters are very good, but please do not forget your financial filters, right? So you need to know your Sharia filter, you need to know your ESG filter, but I think this is also equally important are your financial filters, right? You know, if you talk to any investment guru, right, they will always say, number 1, look at the profitability. Number 2, look at the margins. Number 3, look at the growth of the company, right? So I think one of the examples over here is Apple, basically, right? When Apple first launched their iPhone, right? I think this was, 08, I think. And their margins was about 16%, right? Right now, FY23, their margins got even better, right? So you can see that the company is growing from strength to strength. And since they launched their first iPhone until today, their revenue growth actually grew by about 212%, right? Revenue today is about 117 billion. I think the most important thing is over here, this particular chart. You can see that, man, I mean, this is an amazing stock, basically. So you just need to know a couple of things, right? And you need to know what are important filters, basically. The important filters over here are the financial filters, number 1. And what you want to see is that how profitable the company is. Number 2, whether they can grow in the future. Number 3, you want to see whether they are profitable. And what you want to do is look at their profit margins. If their profit margins are getting better, means they are actually doing something right in the business, right? Another thing which I want to talk a little bit about, right, is that don't forget our ethical filters also. As I mentioned, ESG focuses on the environment, social, and governance, right? And I talked about this during the first episode. And why I want to actually stress this is very important. Right now, as we can see, Malaysia, quite recently, there were floods around the Klang Valley area also, right? So right now, there's global warming. If we invest in ESG funds, in a way, we are telling, I guess, the investment community and also telling the businesses to start doing good, to start doing ethical practices. And that's one of the reasons why we can see this was a catalyst for industries like renewable energy. We can see as money actually focuses on a particular area, we can see certain industry grow. So that's the most amazing part, basically. So I think all in all, right, you need to know what your values are, basically, right? As I mentioned, number one, for instance, like myself, right? For me, I think being Sharia compliant is very important for me, so that I can invest in halal businesses, right? So, no, right now also, it's a question that maybe you guys can ask yourself. What values you guys stand for, right? What do you guys want from businesses you guys invest in? Second thing is to align your investment decisions with also your values, right? And the final thing, do not forget the financials. The whole thing of it all, one of the reasons why we invest in a business is that we are shareholders and we are partners for that business. And if the business continue to grow, we as partners and we as shareholders would continue to see an increase in our shareholding. The share value would increase. And one of the biggest determinant for this is the profitability, right? So remember these 3 points. If everything, right, in this whole 1 month of me talking about ethical, just remember these 3 points, right? So I think over here, we can see this Venn diagram, basically, right? So make sure that number one, we are ethical investors. Number one, there's ESG filters. Number two, we have also the Sharia filters. And number three is the financial filters, right? Yes, Azhar says investing in ESG is one of the ways that as Muslims, we believe that it's blessing, it's barakah, or we make sure that our money is spent in the correct path, basically, right? And I think last week, I think just to recap, right? Last week, amongst the businesses which are non-halal, just want to recap, are alcohol, anything that does things with pork related products, anything that does weapons, anything that does gambling. And guys, trust me, right? Sometimes, like there's this conflict which is happening in Europe. A lot of arm dealers, right now, their stock price is just shooting up, right? But since I have ethics investing, it's really strongly against what my principles are, investing in companies that sell arms and weapons, right? So it's something which I saw and I was not so keen, basically, right? And this falls under the Sharia compliance C, basically, right? Thank you so much for that particular remark, right? So if there's any questions, please do ask, right? We have came to our last slide already, right? And I think over here, while I'm talking a little bit more, these are certain names. I just want to share with you guys certain interesting findings, right? While I'm waiting for questions, right? The first is right now, if anyone is interested towards investing in instruments that give a consistent return, right? One of them could be bond ETFs, where you will get returns of about 5.2%. And why I think bonds and interesting is that since the US is increasing interest rates, I thought to myself, I said, hey, since they're increasing interest rates, wouldn't bonds be a very good investment? I think amongst these two bonds, the iShare iBox, right? If anyone is Sharia investors, you can actually type this thing, I think LQD, right? And you should be able to see this. If you guys want to switch from ASB into something with better returns, right? This is something interesting that we found. Another interesting thing that we found is, this is a reminder for all of us, right? Look at NASDAQ, right? It has given about 30% versus our local market, negative, right? I guess I think my concluding remark over here is this, right? One of the ways we can actually reach our financial goals, right, are number one, we have to make sure that we invest enough money. And number two, make sure that the returns are attractive enough. And let me give you guys an example. At one time, I'm not suggesting this towards anyone, right? But it's just an example, right? At one time, Bitcoin, right? You can see a lot of young people becoming Bitcoin millionaire, right? Because the returns were just like so much, right? But again, I'm not suggesting Bitcoin to anyone, right? Look at the prices right now. I think what the learning point over here is that we want to make sure that we invest in assets which gives attractive returns. If we continue investing in assets that give us about 2 or 3%, right, it's very difficult to reach our financial goal in a very short span of time. So one of the reasons why I wanted to show this chart, to show you guys a visual representation of what's happening right now, right? Whereby the Nasdaq is just shooting up, right? So thank you so much. I think it's already 9:04. Thank you so much for all the replies. Thank you so much for all the answers. Thank you, Cik Azhar, for the idea and the feedback. I do also believe Sharia investing is all about barakah at the end of the day, right? So with that, guys, have a good evening, and I hope to see you guys in the next webinar. Take care, guys.